The internet stood still after the vicious attacks on the Charlie Hebdo headquarters in Paris this Wednesday, and we are going to dedicate this show to try and bring you the most important angles of this story online. Stay tuned. A wave of almost unprecedented solidarity swept the web in the hours after the attack, with the hashtag Je suis Charlie, I am Charlie, trending on every possible social network. As always, Twitter became the main arena for various expressions of solidarity and news updates, while videos uploaded to YouTube directly from the murderous scene were viewed millions of times within hours. Here is one of them.
Chut, ils sont là. Les deux. Baissez-vous.
Il est vous encore?
Mais non, Edouard, debout.
Edouard.
Fais gaffe. Bougez pas.
Il y a un trou. Ouais.
But perhaps most touching and powerful web response was the wave of comic artists making a fierce stance against this act of war on freedom of speech, with legendary media artist Banksy leading the flock. Dozens of artists worldwide have joined him online, spreading quickly through Facebook and creating a mosaic of defiance against the attack. Let's take a moment to watch a collection of these creative memorials to the victims of this very sad day. France is not known as an internet-savvy nation, but after the bloody shooting this Wednesday, it seems like the entire nation turned to the web to express shock and sadness, using the web to quickly organize protests across the Republic. The French people seemed united by sorrow, mourning, and rage, but on social networks, tension quickly erupted and hate speech from all sides entered the public discussion. Most shocking were responses made by some French Muslims in support of the attack, claiming Charlie Hebdo staff deserved what they got and praising the attackers for their deeds. With me in the studio to discuss the reactions of on the French web is I24 News correspondent Sarah Koskiewicz. Good evening.
Good evening.
So how do you explain this supportive reaction? Is this just a fringe phenomenon or is it a wide problem?
Okay, you gotta understand first that it's been a long time, like years, France never saw a terror attack like that. So it's as sad as it sounds. They are not used to terror attack. So of course people just react online massively. Like we had like a huge online movement, and every attack against France or USA or whichever country has the same consequence. It's the same. People are online, speaking online, and here in about Charlie Hebdo, of course, we have bad reaction online, like hate speech and stuff like that. But it's a very small part of internet.
It's a small part. Tell me what you see on the web. Is it more sad, angry, calling for revenge? What's going on?
Okay, yesterday, the day on Wednesday, the day of the attack, most of people were sad, and it was like a very oppressive atmosphere on internet, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. During the protest last night in Place de la République in Paris or all around the world, millions of picture and video were uploaded on Instagram and also on Twitter and Facebook, and it was just an awful day online. It's nothing much that awful for everybody, and you have very small people who are angry. Nobody's calling for revenge, actually, nobody's, but the main line and the priority online, and it's constantly the same thing. It's we have to fight for freedom of speech. That's the only thing. It's not revenge. It's not hate. People are not afraid, as we saw on in Paris, a very huge board. Not afraid. People are not afraid. They really want to be happy and actually Charlie Hebdo will be out next Wednesday also. The magazine will not be shut. People are fighting for the freedom of speech now.
So let's talk about the magazine, about Charlie Hebdo. Is it big on the French web, or does it only get headlines when it does provocative cartoons?
Okay, Charlie Hebdo is very known to be satiric and very polemic. So, of course, they have a website, but it's not their way to speak to people. They're really a newspaper. Of course, we are not speaking about them every day, but we had a huge story about them in 2012. They put Mahomet's caricature on the cover. So of course everybody spoke about them, and they are constantly under security protection. That's why it happens. They are very polemic, and every time they are speaking about one religion or one of the political extreme wings, they are online and surrounded by threatened and stuff like that. But actually, they prefer to be a newspaper than to be online.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Sarah. For coming here. And before we move on, here are some images from yesterday's spontaneous demonstrations as caught by citizens' smartphones and uploaded to Instagram. This is the web at its best. Meanwhile, here in Israel, thousands of people took to the web to show their solidarity for the people of France and the victims in the Charlie Hebdo headquarters. Israeli cartoonists were quick to publish their support of the magazine, mostly unknown in Israel. Before the attack, Haaretz daily newspaper published an article by Israel's leading caricaturist Amos Biderman titled "I'm Afraid of Extreme Islam." Yet, Israeli reaction to the attack in Paris immediately split between the left and the right-wing political camps, with each trying to show how it strengthens their ideology. With me in the studio to try and make some sense of the Israeli reactions is the Tube's chief editor, Yaron Tenbring. Good evening.
Good evening.
So, most people in Israel haven't heard about this magazine before. How do you explain how everybody's reacting?
Well, in Israel, there is like an almost automatic polarization of the public discussion. Anything that happens is immediately split between left and right, as you've said. And here it's exactly the same. People don't know the magazine, don't know what it's about, most people. But they know there was a terror attack, and that's enough for everybody to have an opinion, you know, and the opinions are very automatic, you know. There are people who say, yeah, this supports our view that we should fight Islam all over the world and that Islam is the most dangerous thing, while other people would say, no, this actually proves what we say, which is we have to find a way to diffuse the problem without violence, that freedom of speech is important, that democracy depends on freedom of speech and freedom of press, and this proves it. So I don't know. I think it's basically really a question of your initial political view.
Well, was there any reaction that surprised you the most?
I think the most surprising was that the big Israeli news websites, their headlines yesterday were all about the weather in Israel. We're having a kind of a bit harsh weather for an Israeli winter. That was enough for all the news outlets to deal with that. And the terror attack in Paris was just second place. It became the major headline only when it came out that one of the victims was Jewish. I think that's really sad because Israel is a country that knew a lot of terror attacks. And when the world is looking the other way, Israelis are very pissed about it and say everybody dislikes us. And I think the lack of solidarity from Israeli websites yesterday was really shameful.
And, also lack of solidarity from Israeli politicians. We haven't heard almost anything from any of them. How do you explain that?
Yeah, again, it's all about politics. Israeli politicians from the right wing came gradually to say that, this proves what they say about Arabs and Islam in general, while on the left wing, again, they said, this proves what we say about freedom of speech and democracy. I think Israeli politicians are now busy with their election campaign and have absolutely no time for a terror attack in Paris, nor do they care a lot about it unless it promotes their agenda.
Lovely.
No, not so much.
Okay, well, Yaron, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Since the attack, there have been a lot of talk about where is satire going from here. The internet plays a big role in this question. On Reddit, the mecca of extreme humor of the web, a new subreddit called Draw Muhammad sprang immediately after the terrorist slaughter, drawing huge amount of people who drew the prophet in, a very dishonoring manner. We are showing here only the images that are not, plain veil and pornographic, and believe us, there were many of those. Those are the images from Reddit. Is the internet the place for people to feel more free about their opinions than newspapers? Isn't that the whole point of the web?
Yeah. I think definitely the web is the place where people go extreme. They don't feel any problem with that at all. We thought before that people are anonymous on the web and that lets them be extreme, but now that people are on Facebook, they're still being extreme. But I think on the web, people are just being extreme, and it gets lost in the sea of opinions and ideas and images. On print media, it becomes important because people see it in the newsstands, and I think that's where print media is still stronger than the new media, because their things really have value. They're people who are watching this magazine on the newsstand feel really offended. On the internet, nothing can really offend you.
Yeah, on the other side, isn't Islamophobia only getting bigger on the web now? I mean, for me, I find it super worrying.
Yeah. I think that's one of the immediate reactions to the terror attack this week. You see an immediate growth in anti-Islamic expressions. Characters of Muhammad are becoming widespread. Everybody's doing it. The subreddit we've seen is exploding on Reddit. Reddit is a very, very popular website. So I think the attackers missed their mark, because what's happening now is much worse than any magazine printing anything. It's all over the internet now. And Islamophobia, of course, is growing after such an attack, especially when the attack is not against, army or against a political figure, but against a magazine which was satirical and had no real agenda other than pissing everybody off. They were satirical against Jews, against Christians, against Muslims, against against blacks, whites,
It was
Americans,
satirical
French.
about everyone. Yeah, that's what's
Exactly.
sad about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yaron. Okay, so satire is not dead yet. There have been some moving statements from comedians and satirists, such as the American satire newspaper The Onion, or this very moving statement by Conan O'Brien, which will close our show today. And before we go, always remember, l'amour plus fort que la haine, love is stronger than hate. Goodbye.
But this story really hits home for anyone who day in and day out mocks political, social, and religious figures. In this country, we just take it for granted that it's our right to poke fun at the untouchable or the sacred. But today's tragedy in Paris reminds us very viscerally that it's a right some people are inexplicably forced to die for. So it is very important tonight that I express that everybody who works at our comedy show, and believe it or not, this is a comedy show. That's what we're trying to do here. All of us are terribly sad for the families of those victims, for the people of France, and for anyone in the world tonight who now has to think twice before making a joke. It's not the way it's supposed to be. So we'll move on now. We'll try to do a show. We'll do a show.